Han Li never imagined that a single agreement he made with Ancestor Linghu would not only save the dying Huangfeng Valley from being bullied by anyone, but also eventually elevate it to become a major sect in the Tiannan Cultivation World. As a former disciple of Huangfeng Valley, Han Li had been diligent and conscientious during his time there. However, in the end, he was betrayed by the sect and discarded like cannon fodder. Fortunately, Han Li had a tough life, which allowed him to survive until today, but this betrayal remained a thorn in his heart. Now, Han Li successfully formed his nascent soul when he was just over 200 years old. As soon as this news spread, many snobbish senior cultivators began to look at him with newfound respect. He was undoubtedly a cultivation prodigy, with a future that promised to be bright and boundless. When Ancestor Linghu saw Han Li, his face showed no sign of emotion, but it's safe to say his mind was in utter turmoil. How did I fail to see this kid's enormous potential back then? Under no circumstances should I have treated him as cannon fodder. Immediately after, Linghu arranged a meeting with Han Li. His purpose was simple, to ask if Han Li was willing to return to Huangfeng Valley and take up the position of elder. Moreover, if Han Li agreed to go back, he would be given full control of the entire Huangfeng Valley. Everyone would voluntarily let him hold all the power. But Han Li refused. After all, this old devil, the nickname Han Li went by in the cultivation world, was wholeheartedly devoted to pursuing the Tao. How could he be swayed by such mundane matters? Seeing that Han Li wouldn't agree, Linghu switched to an emotional appeal. "Don't you have even a shred of affection for your former sect?" he asked. His lifespan was nearly at an end. Once he passed away, without a nascent soul cultivator to stand guard over Huangfeng Valley, it would likely be destroyed overnight by other sects joining forces. The fate of the sect's disciples was easy to imagine. Yet even this failed to persuade Han Li. He saw the rise and fall of sects clearly, and had no desire to get involved in the mess of the sect's major sects. When Linghu realized Han Li showed not the slightest sign of being convinced, he resorted to luring him with heavy rewards. He took out 3 rare treasures he had collected for years, offering them in exchange for Han Li's help to Huangfeng Valley 3 times. The condition was that this assistance would only be within Han Li's capabilities. After a moment of thought, Han Li agreed. He took Linghu's 3 treasures and left immediately. What Han Li didn't know, however, was that this agreement with Linghu would bring an unexpected stroke of luck to Huangfeng Valley. In fact, after receiving the 3 treasures, Han Li never took the initiative to help Huangfeng Valley even once. He only offered minor assistance to some of the valley's disciples. These disciples were either old acquaintances from his past or the descendants of old acquaintances. So Han Li naturally chose to look out for them. Additionally, there was one time when Han Li was forced to act in Juimo Valley and save Linghu's life. That incident had been out of Han Li's control. He had just exited seclusion with Miss Ziling. They encountered Linghu and senior sister Nangong Wan being chased by an ancient demon. Seeing that even the 2 of them working together were no match for the ancient demon, Han Li had planned to find an opportunity to slip away. Unexpectedly, the ancient demon saw through his concealment technique. It launched a sudden, silent attack on him. If Han Li hadn't reacted quickly and teleported away with Ziling, he would have likely met his end there on the spot. The moment Han Li appeared, Linghu latched onto him like a drowning man clutching a lifebuoy. He greeted Han Li eagerly. Han Li couldn't leave even if he wanted to, so he had no choice but to bite the bullet and fight the ancient demon, saving Linghu and his companion. After that incident, Han Li had no further contact with Huangfeng Valley. When Han Li advanced to the late nascent soul stage and returned to Tiannan from the Chaos Star Sea, Ancestor Linghu had already passed away, a term known in the cultivation world as sitting in meditation and passing into transcendence. Nevertheless, Linghu was a shrewd he had revealed the agreement he had made with Han Li. As expected, this agreement became a tightening hoop curse, a metaphor for a binding constraint on other sects. Even though Huangfeng Valley no longer had a nascent soul cultivator to oversee, it only lay one, a core formation cultivator, in charge. No sect dared to harbor any ill intentions toward it. Although Han Li was rarely present, Luyun sect was his base. If anyone dared to move against Huangfeng Valley, Luyun sect would never stand idly by. Furthermore, after Han Li became a great cultivator, he defeated the 3 great cultivators of Tiannan, making it even less likely that any force would be foolish enough to provoke Huangfeng Valley. Later, Han Li advanced to the spirit transformation stage and ascended to the spirit world, cutting off all Tiannan's in the human world. It wasn't until over 2,000 years later, when Han Li sent a split soul down to the human world to collect the Arctic essence, he finally heard news of Luyun sect and Huangfeng Valley. To his surprise, the once precarious Huangfeng Valley had managed to stand firm until the end. Over the course of these thousands of years, Huangfeng Valley's fortunes took a turn for the better. It successively accepted several talented disciples, most of whom eventually succeeded in forming their nascent souls. This was what allowed Huangfeng Valley to rise abruptly. Today, Huangfeng Valley not only enjoys far greater prestige than in the past, but it has also become a major sect force in Tiannan. And this was something Han Li could never have anticipated.